Hey there, School of Tomorrow students. We're just continuing with a curriculum. There is a chronology to what I do. I deliberately want these videos to like hyperlink or hypertune kind of tangle ball, spaghetti monster, whatever. But chronology needn't be ignored in the process. In other words, you don't have to go for that only. You can also have a chronology that's making enough sense. And that's where also I can tie into like current events. Like, I live in Oregon, which is a state inside of a federation of states that are friendly to one another. And it's usually, we used to think of these as states you would want to join. And Puerto Rico has been wanting to join, or something better than what it's got. But as soon as you're not in the inside club, you're like treated very poorly a lot of the time. Like, if you're on the wrong side of American citizenship, that can be a real issue. And then I'm saying citizenship, it's not always a guarantee either. People have had to fight for their rights. And here's Citizen Kane. Now, I've been going through this and talking about this in my recent YouTubes. And yesterday and the day before, I got through both directors' commentaries. Or Roger Ebert is a film critic, but he's totally conversant in. Of course, for that reason, he's very very interesting to listen to, and Bogdanovich, the director, is also doing a commentary. So I ended up seeing Citizen Kane two more times, and I sound exasperated or something, but it's a privilege. I just, as Glenn said, it's film school. And remember, in my universe, a film director and a director and building big things like mega project cities like Old Man River City, that's that's the movie industry taking a new attitude towards the props. Like our current attitude, I'm showing Muhammad Ali. I'm going to get to him in a second. If you remember, we've been talking about Stokely Carmichael, Kiyoshi Kuramiya, and Baird. I think some people pronounce his first name differently. I've never met, I've met Kiyoshi, but I never met Reston. But my dad was in a talk by him, I think, probably in Seattle. I don't know. Like, it was long before I was born, but it made a big difference to him. So, yes, Muhammad Ali is on the screen, but what I'm talking about, well, let's go back to Citizen Kane. He poses as wanting to help the people, but he's coming from a richly privileged background in terms of always getting what he wants, money wise, and people notice that that makes him different, right? He doesn't just blend in, this guy Orson Welles character in this movie. He's kind of out of it in a way he can't overcome. And by grabbing a newspaper, it's like a megaphone. He gets to like repaint reality and do so convincingly enough. Given his already considerable assets, he can build a castle and be a king and have a queen. And he kind of acts out a fairy tale, you could say, but it goes wrong because it is just a fairy tale. It's like these things, if they're not organic, they don't last, right? So Muhammad Ali is all over YouTube with this speech. And this is like a literal translation or transcription here in Facebook, right? So I could go to YouTube right now and pull up some clips of his being this defiant and yet totally logical, right? He's really holding up his side of the debate, and in that sense, boxing is an extension of um, his combativeness is artful on several levels, including here verbally, including just in his body language, everything is good. So I heap praise on this guy, a spiritual leader, one of the greatest Americans, Muhammad Ali, right? And I know he was called Cassius Clay and the whole story, right? Study that story is what I'm suggesting. Go back to our place-based education, right? And remember, I'm going into civil rights, in my case, largely through Kyoshi Kiyomiya. That way I can hook up with a broader definition of civil rights, right? To just be more, you could say liberal in the sense of, I'll wind this up with the Dalai Lama's talk yesterday, which I happened to catch on Facebook. Okay, here's a funny cartoon, right? Yoda meets English teacher, diagramming sentences. His Holiness was saying English is kind of a lost cause. He makes some pretty funny jokes. He was comparing the different languages. And in this one, like, he's proud of his language, and I sure would be if I were the head of it, right? And one of his responsibilities is to just preserve and continue this very, very valuable language. And he described in what way it has autocorrection, right? Like, even the Buddha can be contradicted or fixed, corrected, let's put it, debugged. Like, there's 100 volumes, you could say, of teachings and then 200 volumes of commentary. This isn't an unusual pattern, right? To have commentary or annotations, right? It sounds a lot like Judaism. So he makes some jokes and stuff. The point being, first, he's in critical path mentioned, and Fuller is very focused on irrigation. And, you could say critical path is in some ways a fantastic tale, kind of a myth. And to even give more weight to that, the next book after, which I keep forgetting to mention, I don't think this is a posthumous, right? I keep saying after Grunch of Giants, then Cosmography, which is posthumous, and I kind of bleep over the fact that there's this whole other quote-unquote book. I guess it's an art project, but it also comes out as a regular, like, coffee table book, and it's completely, what do you want to call it, mythographical. It's symbolic, it's non-literal. Like, Norman O'Brown loves body, Kyoshi's into that too. In synergetics, the truth is not literal. Whatever the truth is, it's just not literally true, because that relationship is a duality. Literally true means about what, though? I mean, how can you have... There's resonance with, there's analogies with, it's always going to be multi-level, and you don't try to dismiss all that and say, oh, we want to get the resonant stuff out of here and just talk about the literal truth. Yeah, that can be useful, building a bridge, whatever, right? But it's not what we're aiming for necessarily in synergetics, language of synergetics, or in critical path. But what I wanted to say is the Dalai Lama here, last night when I was watching, was making clear what his responsibilities were, and he was enumerating them, and one of them was he's concerned to keep the ecosystem, the roof of the world as it's called, the Tibetan Plateau, a safe, clean, ongoing source of fresh, clear water. And he's not, like, joking about that, because this is one of those, like, the great rivers that feed most people in the world, the great, at that plateau and the snow and so forth, that ice pack and the forests that are, the ecology, if it erodes and you just turn it into a mud pie because you're over eager to make this life be so, you want to drive 5 cars at once and eat, caviar every night. I don't know what, there's, people can go overboard in their desire for, anyway, you can wreck the environment if you don't think ahead, obviously. We all know that. The Dalai Lama is like, I'm thinking ahead about the Tibetan Plateau, where the great rivers like the Brahmaputra and the Mekong and all that all start. And that's something that I'll wind up on Alan Potkin with that one. This gentleman has traveled the world. I met him first in Bhutan. He had the same doctoral thesis advisor, I believe, that my dad did, Dr. Dick Meyer, who was at UC Berkeley for a long time too, but my dad met him at the University of Chicago, did his thesis under him. And Potkin Alan had the same, I think, teacher, if not thesis advisor. Okay, so, and I met Dick Meyer. He came out to the Philippines. He stayed with us. I met him on more than one occasion. Interesting guy, very tall, lanky guy, you could say. Anyway, a planner and so forth. He came visit us in Manila. That's where my dad was doing his. He was a planner, right? And planning is more than just let's drawing cities like in SimCity. You expect everyone to just like what magically follow your bright ideas. I can hear the politician, or the crime boss. What you expect to just draw this and I'm going to do it? You think that? It's not right. So zoning, and you got to get a bureaucratic buy-in. It's a process. You got to have a city agree or want, or it's not where you go in there and tell them. Well, maybe if you're Robert Moses, right? These are themes I'm hitting back on what we've been talking about. But I promised I'd close it off with the Dalai Lama, and I am. I just want to link it back to how many books get you really thinking about irrigation in the first place. Like, even if Critical Path is somewhat fantastical, as I was saying, you could read it that way, especially speculative prehistory. We should talk about boxers, Planet of the Apes. What does Fuller think it would take to be a monkey? Like, could you come to this planet and even though we look like this, humanity's gone and we're just the monkeys now? Like, I think he thought if we kept boxing each other, he talks about, it's kind of a funny story, if we just keep boxing each other, we can box ourselves back to monkey, and we'll still look like this, and we'll just be like the monkeys. And I think he's kind of, telling a funny story in here about the spread of humanity from Polynesia, where everything's perfect. You got the coconuts falling, you got fish, and you learn navigation. It's like if you were to beam aboard a planet somewhere and take over some monkeys, where would you do it? Probably there, right? And then he tells a story as if humanity is creating this beautiful irrigation system as it goes forward and up into the Himalayas and around the world. The Mongols takes over Europe, spreads to the west. He's got his sweep of civilization is around the world to the west from like Polynesia, and that's kind of crazy. But if you look in his poetry and stuff, it's like it's kind of a mythopoetic beginning for a lot of his thinking, his cartoons, and it gets you thinking about irrigation and rice paddies. I'm talking about serious Asian uh, rice irrigation. People think about flat paddies and stuff, but no, it's up the mountains. It's all kinds of water management skills. And that's what Alan Potkin's talking about. That's where the Dalai Lama's focused. It's like these rivers are literally not just to be messed with, right? Getting back to literal truth, the literal rivers and what we do to keep them going the way they terraforming is continuing. Humans are making such a big impact with their projects that we have to continue to remember that humans are terraforming the planet. And you can say, yeah, and they're ruining it and so on. And you can get into a righteous rage and can do that. I'm just saying our responsibilities are vast. I would say humanity is one of nature's mega projects. We are a mega project of nature. We're not here to fight nature because we are a product of nature. And how often a life form of our kind pops up on a planet somewhere, we don't know that. We don't have numbers. This is the beginning of our story here, and we're already wondering if we're going to last, right? We haven't got much confidence in that. We're always talking about destroying ourselves. And we just got here, so it's not a great sign, right? And so religions and all this stuff, they try to talk us out of messing up, right? And so there's the Dalai Lama saying, follow whatever religion keeps you from messing up. Like, okay, whatever your discipline that's keeping you sane or contributing to an end goal that we all share, lean on that, go with that. It's like it's not his place to talk you out of your belief system if we all are converging on something that's going to benefit ourselves. We're going to have a win-win, right? Even if everyone stays exactly in the religion they are. It's not a competition to get all the believers. That's a lot of people play that board game. Go get the believers of X and make them believers of Y. Like, Go get the Republicans and get them to believe in Bidenism, right? That's what's happening in America right now in the political scene. Fun, right? So there's all these games. World game proceeds. But if you kind of zoom out and take a third person look at it, you got to worry about those rivers and forests and all this stuff. If you just trample it all in the middle of your convert people to something religion game, then you're kind of messed up, right? And if you believe in God, then God could tell you that, okay, you messed up, all right? And in Genesis, God has a real problems with humanity. We should stay humble because we've almost been considered beyond repair a couple times. Cast from the garden, all right, mess up number one, and then another mess up led to the Noah story. So our relationship in Christianity with the deity is troubling, right? It's not a smooth sailing story. So why do we think we're out of the woods? There's a lot of people who think we're out of the woods. Maybe if the whole universe is open to visitations by people, you could say, but the planet I don't think is out of the woods for humans yet. Got to work on that. So more ahead. We'll talk more. Talk to you next time.